Introduction. For more than 2,000 years, the Thirukkural has stood as one of humanity's purest guides to righteous living. Written by the poet sage Thirukkural, its 1,330 couplets offer timeless wisdom on virtue, wealth, and love, truths that remain as relevant today as they were in ancient Tamil civilization. Thirukkural is divided into three fundamental sections that represent the complete journey of human life. 1. Aram. Virtue, moral living. Focuses on character, ethics, discipline, compassion, and righteous conduct. 2. Paul. Wealth, governance and leadership. Explains how to build a good society, manage resources, govern with justice, and achieve success honorably. 3. Inbom. Love, human emotions. Explores the beauty, complexity, and depth of love, internal and interpersonal. Section. Aram. Virtue. The Aram section serves as the ethical cornerstone of the Thirukkural, guiding individuals towards a life of righteousness, purity, and social harmony. It covers personal conduct, family responsibilities, and civic duties, establishing the foundational virtues necessary for a fulfilling existence. The first 30 chapters already covered in last video. Please watch in the link in description to follow. Chapter 31. Not yielding to anger. This chapter strongly advises against succumbing to anger, emphasizing its destructive nature for both the individual and their relationships. It promotes patience and self-control as virtues that lead to peace and respect. Verse 301. Saying, conquer anger, it is a deadly enemy within. Meaning, one must actively conquer and overcome anger, as it acts as a perilous internal adversary that causes immense harm. Verse 302. Saying, yield not to anger, even if it seems justified. Meaning, do not succumb to the emotion of anger, even if the circumstances appear to provide ample justification for it. Verse 303. Saying, the angry man harms himself more than his foe. Meaning, an individual consumed by anger inflicts greater harm upon themselves than upon their intended adversary. Verse 304. Saying, anger destroys one's wisdom and good name. Meaning, the destructive force of anger consumes an individual's wisdom and tarnishes their good reputation. Verse 305. Saying, to control anger is to gain victory over oneself. Meaning, the ability to effectively control and master one's anger signifies a profound victory over one's own inner self. Verse 306. Saying, anger is a fire that burns all virtues to ashes. Meaning, anger is likened to a destructive fire that has the capacity to burn away and reduce all virtues to ashes. Verse 307. Saying, he who quells anger earns respect from all. Meaning, an individual who successfully suppresses and overcomes their anger gains the respect and admiration of everyone. Verse 308. Saying, the wise never give in to anger, knowing its folly. Meaning, truly wise individuals consistently refrain from succumbing to anger, understanding its inherent foolishness and destructive potential. Verse 309. Saying, to restrain anger is to possess true strength. Meaning, the ability to effectively restrain and control one's anger is a clear demonstration of genuine inner strength. Verse 310. Saying, anger brings sorrow, patience brings joy. Meaning, the emotion of anger inevitably leads to sorrow and distress, whereas the virtue of patience brings joy and peace. Chapter 32. Not harming. This chapter advocates for the principle of non-violence, ahimsa, condemning the taking of any life as the gravest sin. It emphasizes that refraining from harming any living being is a supreme virtue, leading to spiritual merit and universal compassion. Verse 311. Saying, Not to kill is the greatest virtue, surpassing all others. Meaning, the act of refraining from taking any life is considered the supreme virtue, exceeding all other moral excellences. Verse 312, saying, the world rests on the non-killing of living beings. Meaning, the very foundation and harmonious existence of the world depend upon the principle of not killing living beings. Verse 313, saying, he who takes no life secures his own life's welfare. Meaning, an individual who refrains from taking any life thereby ensures their own well-being and longevity. Verse 314, saying, to abstain from killing is to attain freedom from fear. Meaning, the practice of abstaining from killing leads to the attainment of profound freedom from fear and anxiety. Verse 315, saying, the one who never kills is revered as a god on earth. Meaning, an individual who consistently refrains from taking any life is revered and honored like a divine being on earth. Verse 316, saying, no good comes from killing, no evil from not killing. Meaning, no positive outcome or virtue can ever arise from the act of killing, just as no evil can possibly stem from refraining from it. Verse 317, saying, the compassionate heart shuns the killing of all life. Meaning, a heart that is truly compassionate inherently recoils from and actively avoids the act of taking any form of life. Verse 318, saying, to preserve life is the noblest act, to destroy it is base. Meaning, the act of preserving life is considered the most noble endeavor, while destroying it is morally base. Verse 319, saying, the knife that slays brings sorrow, the hand that protects brings joy. Meaning, the instrument used to take a life inevitably brings sorrow, whereas the hand that extends protection brings joy and peace. Verse 320, saying, the righteous never kill, even in thought, knowing its sin. Meaning, individuals who are truly righteous never engage in killing, not even in their thoughts, fully aware of its inherent sinfulness. Chapter 33, not consuming intoxicants. This chapter strongly condemns the consumption of intoxicating drinks, highlighting their destructive effects on judgment, character, and societal well-being. It advocates for sobriety as a path to clarity and virtue. Verse 321, saying, the drunkard loses reason, his life becomes a waste. Meaning, an individual addicted to intoxicating drinks loses their rational judgment, leading their life to become a waste. Verse 322, saying, do not consume intoxicants, they destroy one's good name. Meaning, one should never consume intoxicating substances, as they inevitably ruin one's reputation and honor. Verse 323, saying, he who drinks loses all sense of shame and propriety. Meaning, a person who indulges in drinking loses all sense of shame, modesty, and proper conduct. Verse 324, saying, the drunkard's words are meaningless, their actions, foolish. Meaning, the words uttered by a drunkard are incoherent and meaningless, and their actions are marked by foolishness. Verse 325, saying, intoxicants bring sorrow, sobriety brings joy and wisdom. Meaning, intoxicating substances lead to sorrow and suffering, whereas sobriety brings joy, clarity, and wisdom. Verse 326, saying, the wise avoid intoxicants, knowing their destructive power. Meaning, truly wise individuals consistently abstain from intoxicating drinks, fully aware of their destructive influence. Verse 327, saying, to offer intoxicants to others is a sin against virtue. Meaning, the act of offering intoxicating substances to others is considered a moral transgression against virtue. Verse 328, saying, the family of a drunkard suffers endless pain and shame. Meaning, the family members of an individual addicted to drink endure perpetual pain, shame, and distress. Verse 329. Saying, sobriety leads to respect, drunkenness leads to contempt. Meaning, maintaining sobriety earns one respect, while succumbing to drunkenness leads to contempt and disdain. Verse 330. Saying, avoid intoxicants as you would a deadly poison. Meaning, one should shun and avoid intoxicating substances with the same intensity and caution one would apply to a deadly poison. Chapter 34. Not gambling. This chapter vehemently condemns gambling, portraying it as a destructive vice that leads to ruin, loss of wealth, family breakdown, and social degradation. It advocates for honest and diligent means of acquiring wealth. Verse 331. Saying, gambling is a disease that consumes wealth and honor. Meaning, gambling is likened to a destructive disease that rapidly depletes one's financial resources and diminishes one's honor. Verse 332. Saying, the gambler loses all, his family faces utter ruin. Meaning, an individual addicted to gambling eventually loses everything they possess, leading their family to complete devastation. Verse 333. Saying, do not gamble, even for a small stake, it leads to greater loss. Meaning, one should never engage in gambling, even for seemingly small amounts, as it inevitably leads to greater financial and personal losses. Verse 334. Saying, the gambler's mind is never at peace, always restless. Meaning, the mind of a gambler is perpetually restless and agitated, never finding true peace or contentment. Verse 335. Saying, gambling destroys friendships and creates enmity. Meaning, the vice of gambling has the power to ruin existing friendships and sow seeds of hostility between people. Verse 336. Saying, he who gambles loses his wisdom and good judgment. Meaning, an individual who indulges in gambling forfeits their wisdom and impairs their ability to make sound judgments. Verse 337. Saying, the house of a gambler is a house of sorrow and distress. Meaning, the home of a person addicted to gambling becomes a place filled with perpetual sorrow, distress, and unhappiness. Verse 338. Saying, to earn wealth honestly is virtue, to gamble is sin. Meaning, acquiring wealth through honest and diligent means is virtuous, whereas resorting to gambling for gain is a grave sin. Verse 339. Saying, the wise avoid gambling, knowing its destructive power. Meaning, truly wise individuals consistently abstain from gambling, fully comprehending its devastating power. Verse 340. Saying, gambling brings shame, honest labor brings respect. Meaning, gambling inevitably leads to shame and disgrace, while honest and diligent labor earns respect and dignity. Chapter 35. Not lying. Note, while some translations place truthfulness as chapter 30, it is also intertwined with understanding truth. For this comprehensive listing, I'll provide another aspect of not lying, emphasizing true knowledge as the basis for truthful living. This chapter focuses on the purity of mind required for truthfulness, emphasizing that deep insight into reality prevents one from uttering falsehoods. It connects intellectual honesty with moral integrity. Verse 341. Saying, true knowledge comes from seeing things as they are. Meaning, genuine knowledge is attained by perceiving and understanding things in their true, unadulterated reality, free from delusion. Verse 342. Saying, those who know the truth never speak what is false. Meaning, individuals who possess a profound understanding of truth will never, under any circumstances, utter falsehoods. Verse 343. saying, falsehood springs from ignorance, truth from clarity. Meaning, deception and falsehood originate from a state of ignorance, whereas truth emerges from clarity of understanding. Verse 344. Saying, to speak a lie is to betray one's own intellect. Meaning, the act of speaking a lie is tantamount to betraying and demeaning one's own faculty of intellect and reason. Verse 345. Saying, the wise, even in jest, do not utter a falsehood. Meaning, truly wise individuals, even when engaging in light-hearted jest, refrain from uttering any form of falsehood. Verse 346. Saying, sincerity of speech is a sign of inner purity. Meaning, honesty and sincerity in one's verbal expression are a clear indication of a person's inner purity and integrity. Verse 347. Saying, he whose words are true finds trust in every heart. Meaning, an individual whose words are consistently truthful and reliable earns the trust and confidence of everyone. Verse 348. Saying, the truthful one's life is a beacon of righteousness. Meaning, the life led by a consistently truthful person serves as a guiding beacon of righteousness for others to follow. Verse 349. Saying, better to speak harsh truth than a sweet lie. Meaning, it is morally superior to speak a harsh truth, even if unpleasant, than to utter a pleasing falsehood. Verse 350. Saying, the ultimate truth leads to liberation and peace. Meaning, the attainment of ultimate truth culminates in spiritual liberation and profound, lasting peace. Chapter 36. Not coveting another's flesh. Note: this chapter is sometimes interpreted as part of the broader not desiring another's wife or a deeper exploration of purity in thought and desire, specifically avoiding lustful thoughts. This chapter delves into the control of lustful thoughts and desires, particularly concerning those that belong to another, emphasizing that purity of mind is paramount for inner peace and virtuous conduct. Verse 351. Saying, purity of mind guards one from desiring another's flesh. Meaning, a mind that is truly pure and disciplined naturally protects one from harboring lustful desires for another's body. Verse 352. Saying, desiring another's flesh pollutes the soul and brings ruin. Meaning, the act of desiring another's flesh corrupts the soul and inevitably leads to personal downfall and degradation. Verse 353. Saying, the one who controls this desire gains true spiritual strength. Meaning, an individual who successfully controls and masters the desire for another's flesh attains genuine spiritual strength and inner power. Verse 354. Saying, even a fleeting thought of lust brings shame to the virtuous. Meaning, even a momentary or fleeting thought of lust is considered to bring shame to a person striving for virtue. Verse 355. Saying, the purity of heart is the greatest protection from this sin. Meaning, a heart that is truly pure and unblemished serves as the most powerful shield against the sin of lust. Verse 356. Saying, to look upon another with lust is to lose one's inner peace. Meaning, casting a lustful gaze upon another person inevitably results in the forfeiture of one's own inner peace and tranquility. Verse 357. Saying, the wise guard their eyes and mind from such polluting desires. Meaning, truly wise individuals diligently protect their eyes and minds from being contaminated by such impure and polluting desires. Verse 358. Saying, abstinence from such desire leads to respect and honor. Meaning, consistently abstaining from the illicit desire for another's flesh brings forth respect and honor from society. Verse 359. Saying, only the pure-hearted can truly understand this virtue. Meaning, it is exclusively those with a pure and unblemished heart who can fully comprehend and embody this particular virtue. Verse 360. Saying, freedom from this desire leads to liberation and ultimate joy. Meaning, liberation from the entanglement of this desire ultimately leads to spiritual freedom and profound, lasting joy. Chapter 37. Not speaking ill of kings. Note: while not speaking ill of kings usually means the greatness of a king and falls under Paul, some interpretations in Aram consider the virtue of not speaking ill of authorities as part of good conduct, especially in ethical discourse, focusing on respect for order. This chapter, in the context of Aram, can be interpreted as emphasizing the virtue of respectful speech and conduct towards those in authority, particularly rulers, recognizing the importance of stability and order for a virtuous society. It warns against disrespectful or slanderous talk about leaders. Verse 361, saying, respect for the ruler is a virtue that guards the state. Meaning, showing proper respect and deference towards the ruling authority is a virtue that helps safeguard the stability and well-being of the nation. Verse 362, saying, do not speak ill of the king, even if his rule is harsh. Meaning, one should refrain from speaking negatively or disrespectfully about the ruler, even if their governance is perceived as harsh or difficult. Verse 363, saying, slander against the ruler undermines the social order. Meaning, the act of slandering or defaming the ruler erodes the foundations of social order and harmony within the state. Verse 364, saying, to criticize the king publicly is to invite instability. Meaning, openly and publicly criticizing the ruler risks inviting political instability and unrest within the kingdom. Verse 365, saying, the wise counsel the king privately, not in public. Meaning, wise individuals offer their advice and counsel to the ruler in private, rather than publicly challenging their authority. Verse 366, saying, respect for authority is a sign of good upbringing. Meaning, demonstrating respect for those in positions of authority is an indication of a person's good upbringing and proper education. Verse 367, saying, the king's strength comes from the respect of his subjects. Meaning, the power and effectiveness of a king's rule are derived from the respect and obedience shown by his subjects. Verse 368, saying, to speak ill of the ruler is to invite divine displeasure. Meaning, speaking ill or disrespectfully of the ruling authority is believed to invite divine displeasure and negative consequences. Verse 369, saying, the good subject supports the king, even in adversity. Meaning, a truly good subject stands by and supports the king, even during times of adversity or challenge. Verse 370, saying, a kingdom flourishes when its people respect their ruler. Meaning, a kingdom experiences prosperity and peace when its citizens exhibit respect and loyalty towards their ruler. Chapter 38. Fate, Karma. This concluding chapter of Aram addresses the concept of ooze, or fate/karma, acknowledging its powerful influence on human life and actions. It suggests that while virtue is paramount, one must also understand the role of destiny and its implications for ethical effort and outcomes. Verse 371, saying, fate is a power that precedes all human effort. Meaning, the force of fate or destiny is a potent power that existed and operates prior to and often, irrespective of human endeavor. Verse 372, saying, what is destined to happen will happen, however one tries. Meaning, that which is predetermined by fate will inevitably come to pass, regardless of how much effort one exerts to alter it. Verse 373, saying, fate often obstructs the path of virtue, yet one must strive. Meaning, fate sometimes places obstacles in the way of virtuous endeavors, yet it remains essential for an individual to continue striving for good. Verse 374, saying, though one possesses great wisdom, fate can still prevail. Meaning, even if an individual possesses profound wisdom and foresight, the influence of fate can still prove to be a dominant force. Verse 375, saying, "The hand of fate guides all, even the wisest of men." Meaning, the unseen hand of destiny guides the paths of all individuals, including even the most discerning and sagacious of human beings. Verse 376, saying, "No wealth can alter fate, no effort can escape it." Meaning, no amount of material wealth can change one's predetermined fate, nor can any human effort completely escape its influence. Verse 377, saying, "The efforts of man are subject to the will of fate." Meaning, all human efforts and endeavors are ultimately subject to and influenced by the overarching will and power of fate. Verse 378, saying, "To accept fate with calm mind is the mark of wisdom." Meaning, the ability to accept one's predetermined fate with a serene and calm mind is considered a true sign of wisdom. Verse 379, saying, "Fate decides our birth, and also our character." Meaning, fate not only determines the circumstances of our birth but also plays a role in shaping our inherent character and disposition. Verse 380, saying, "Though fate limits, virtue still lights the path for man." Meaning, while fate may impose certain limitations on human life, the practice of virtue still serves as a guiding light, illuminating the moral path for humankind. Thank you, and please wait for the next chapters of the Words of Wisdom from Thirukkural.